Tonight, I am joined with my new friend, Rylan. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. Thanks for having
Hey.
me.
Absolutely, man. So we've been offline for a little while in regards to doing Spoilercast, and that's because I've been kind of out a guest or a host on a regular basis. Because if it's just me on here talking about a movie, that would be a little old and redundant, and I don't want to do that. It sounds awful. It's more fun to have like an actual discussion with somebody and kind of like get a little feedback back and forth.
Oh, for
In the
sure.
past, we used to have a studio. There were four of us that would go in and talk on a regular basis. Then we had a fifth person there. We called him Dire Monkey. And that was my good friend who was our studio engineer. He ran all the sound and all of that good stuff, monitored levels and things like that. Tonight, we don't necessarily have a subject matter in mind. I wasn't exactly diving into this going, hey, let's jump on here and talk about this movie specifically. It was more or less just kind of getting us back in the roll of things. It is Spoilercast Back in Action, is what I'm calling it. We did Spoilercast 2, I think is what we ended up calling it when I tried to reboot before. I had a host with me for an episode. Anyway, we were on hiatus for a while. We started doing State of the Nerd, which I think you've at least seen something about State of the Nerd. That's my friend Josh and I. We get on and we talk about everything nerd related, but it started off in the middle of COVID because we were trying to find a way to like keep in touch with one another and trying to, hey, how are you? What is your mental state that you're currently in? And then what is the state of like nerd culture and things of that nature and where we are as far as that stuff goes, because everything was put on hold and everything took a back burner and it all sucked so bad. But now here we are. We're kind of on the other end of that, but not completely. We're still fighting that whole fight. But did you see the movie Don't Look Up? You should watch the movie Don't Look Up.
That's Leo DiCaprio, and
yeah,
I've seen half of it, and I fell asleep. Didn't get a chance to finish it. Enjoyed what I watched quite a bit.
It's good. It's social commentary at its finest. And,
yes.
There were a lot of people that walked out. So I work at a movie theater. I think I've told you that. For those of you that are just joining us for Spoilercast that don't know me very well, I have a couple of different jobs. And by that, I mean I have four. And my four jobs are an array of things. I would love to just have one job that paid all of my bills. Unfortunately, I don't. And that sucks. But we're working on that. If the video game development that we've got going on, and I will tell you more about that during this, because this isn't necessarily, again, a spoiler cast that's going to actually cover a movie. I'd like to just kind of get everybody familiar with who we are individually, because I haven't had a chance to really talk to you individually. We've become friends. I feel like we're friends.
I think
at that moment, you could have been like, we're not friends. And I would have just...
I have to go. Goodbye, everybody.
No. This guy. So I work at a movie theater in the evenings. Not every evening, but a lot of them. So I get a chance to see a lot of movies on a regular basis. And, if you've ever watched any of our episodes of Spoilercast, Rylan, I know you've listened to probably a little bit, not a lot of them. You will find that I am highly opinionated. I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of things. And I look at a lot of things in movies and I go, that make a lot of sense, right? For example, I will be posting up a video. I think I actually just did it a minute ago. I think it uploaded to TikTok. I've recently started using TikTok, and I both hate it and love it at the same time. TikTok is what brought me Rylan. TikTok is what brought me Danny. That's a positive thing. TikTok occasionally gives me an excuse to be somewhat creative. TikTok gives me an excuse to laugh sometimes. It's not the end of the world. I just hate most social media things. That's just,
my friend, as only using Twitter for quite a while. Yes, that can be what's the opposite of pleasant?
Right.
But finding TikTok and wow, internet positivity. Didn't know those could go together sometimes, and it's been refreshing. Very
new
refreshing.
Friends.
Exactly.
New friends.
Wouldn't be here without it.
What?
Right.
So it's not been bad, but through that, I posted up a video of a jump scare from a movie I have seen several times. Okay. And I have no issue with like throwing myself under the bus. I don't care. I don't know if you will or not, but we don't give a fuck about that type of thing. Just so you know, we try to avoid the first few minutes of the episode, but like, I swear constantly. That's just a thing for me. So don't
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See, break that barrier. Just get it over with.
All right, the wall is broken. There we go. Oh, damn, I'm banned. All right.
So here I am. I'm watching the movie The Ring with my kids. My daughters wanted to watch it. Now, we watched it for them. I've seen The Ring. It's not a bad movie, but like, when's the last time you saw The Ring?
When it first came out.
Okay. What do you remember about that movie?
I remember basically her crawling out of the TV.
Okay.
Coming at, and 7 days. Must get the tape to someone else. Those are the main things that come to mind immediately.
Now, clarify, must get the tape to someone else in 7 days for me.
Ooh, all right. So once you watch,
as best you can remember,
once you watch the actual tape of the self, see the actual girl herself, you have 7 days to pass the tape on, if I recall correctly, to another victim, or you yourself are the one that is. Now, was it possessed or just killed? I don't quite recall, but
killed.
Then you are killed unless you can pass that on to the next. Sort of like the chain link going on down the line, if I remember correctly.
Close. You're actually close. You're missing one thing.
What's that?
Because if you recall, the main female character manages at the end of the movie to like avoid the curse, but her baby daddy, the video engineer that she happens to know, which how awesome is that she's lucky enough to know somebody like that in a movie that this is like a thing about, right?
I know, right?
Anyway, he dies after they rescue the little girl, her corpse, right? So everybody's like, it's tropey, right? They find her, they recover her remains, she's put to rest, end of thing, right? And she survives, so they go, subsequently, that means that everyone else will survive. And he's the next person that would die, right? And then he does. And she's like, well, what did I miss? What did I do that he didn't do? Because he was with me the entire time for the movie, right? You remember what she did that he didn't?
I can't say I do, no.
She made a copy. She made a copy of the movie, and she's like, holy crap, that's the only thing that's different. So at the end of the movie, she has her son, she's holding his hand, and she has her son make a copy of the movie. And then he has to show the copy to someone else.
I had honestly forgotten that. Wow, yeah. That's coming back.
So to break the curse, to lift the punishment from you, right? You have to make a copy and then pass this along, right? Cool. Why did the entirety of the movie continue to happen to our female protagonist? She made a copy at the beginning of the movie and showed it immediately to him. Why did the supernatural things continue to occur?
You're definitely making me want to rewatch this now with a whole new right?
If that's the catch, if that's the okay, you're good now,
then yeah, how's that applicable if it was
There's a simple answer, and it works like this. It's so the movie can happen. It's so we can see the movie happen. But that's bad storytelling, right?
When it's done for the audience benefit as opposed to the story, it breaks narrative. It kind of, exactly.
You're not following your own rules. That's problematic for me, right? And then the other day, you and I were talking about Marvel. We've been talking a little bit of Marvel. We've kind of talked and been teasing at this whole X-Men into the MCU. We haven't got to that discussion yet. But here's the thing. You had made reference to the movie Days of Future Past.
Yes, I was.
I hate that movie. I hate that movie because it's not okay. All right, I need to frame that a little differently. It's not that I hate the movie. I hate the storytelling in that movie. Okay, I love good storytelling. You give me a good story, and I will throw CGI onto an altar and go, "You don't matter." Right? Doesn't matter to me. Okay, if you have a good story, I'll even turn a blind eye a little bit to bad acting. Right?
Sure. If the story's telling thing. You can look past it. You can have fun with the bad acting because it's narrative driven.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
all about that. All right.
Mm.
It's when you have a bad story and you try to compensate for that by doing like cool special effects and things of that nature that I start going, you kind of miss the point, right?
Oh, Dark Phoenix just popped in my mind. Sorry.
So when you look at Days of Future Past, it's got the framework for an amazing story. We've seen that in the old school 90s X-Men TV show.
Ugh.
So good. So good. Then you look at the comics. So good. Oh my God. You have all of this amazing potential. And then they did what they did and they made that movie. And I'm over here going, you should feel bad. You just feel bad. Because not only did you miss the point, you also kind of defeated some of the purpose, and you kind of make Xavier into a lot more of a dick than he actually is. Which he's a dick. Let's not like split hairs on that. He's a dick. I think you've recently come to terms with that.
I was in denial for a while because, again, my first real introduction for Xavier was the cartoon and the comic, but
Yeah.
that cartoon was just that initial seed. So in my mind, stoic Xavier, always there to help, not a flaw. And the more I read as a kid, like, why is he different? No, he's got to be more like this. So it was a lot of denial. But as time goes on, there's no changing that. There are some questionable moments in Xavier's.
It's just another version. He's just another angle of Magneto, and they're both making essentially child soldiers to a degree to fight in the war. If you want to boil it down real simple, there's a lot of other things there, and I'm positive that if the nerd community gets their hands on something like this, they'll just go through and cherry pick all of the things out that we say, and they go, "You're not quite right here." And I'm like, "Listen,
Actually,
excuse me, I'm doing it wrong. I gotta put my keyboard like this." That's close, right? Anyway, so
5, you actually incorrectly spoke. Like, oh,
yeah. But in that came a moment that I argued, and it's what started Spoilercast. And that's where Xavier, through Wolverine's or his consciousness that's been transported back in time, he speaks to past Xavier. So he, from the future, knowing all the things that he's known, talks to himself in the past, and then that version of Xavier, if the timeline persists moving forward, did literally nothing to stop it. And I'm over here going, you have the tools, you have the means, you have the power, you have the know-how, you have all of the information because you literally download your brain essentially into the past version of yourself. What?
Where's the problem? Exactly. You got it. By the way, thank you for telling me that. I cannot watch that movie the same anymore.
So, my buddy Josh, one of my original hosts with this, he still joins me on State of the Nerd, but schedules are a little wonky. By the way, tomorrow we're going to be doing State of the Nerd, so it'll be on 12/13. That's part of why I was asking you if you're available tomorrow, because who gives a crap about Super Bowl? Sports ball, go! I'd rather talk nerd stuff, and that's what we've decided. We're going to play some D&D tomorrow, and we're going to be nerds.
It's
Nerds.
So long. Excuse me, nerds. I wish to join.
I mean, you're welcome to join. We definitely got the nerd thing going on, man. We can definitely get you in on some D&D if you're game. But we can get you in on talking about some podcast stuff. I hope that we can find a regular schedule for doing Spoilercast. I would love to get back into doing this on a very regular basis. I have plenty of things that I want to talk about, plenty of theories, plenty of thoughts, and stuff that I just want to bounce off that super nerd brain of yours. Because as we've been talking, one thing that I don't think you realize is that you know a lot more on the reality side of things than I do. I am more in tune with like the movie and the story and the stuff that's happening within it, and I don't necessarily look at it and go, "Oh, well, that's this director, and this is where that took place, and these are the actors that are there." But as I've mentioned things to you, you have taken up that side of things, and I find that to be highly impressive. So I know you don't do well with compliments and things of that nature. So
I think you're talking to right now, but I'm just smiling and nodding.
Smile and wave, boy, smile and wave. So, like I said, we're kind of all over the place, and that's fine because that's the purpose of this. So, what kind of work do you do? Like, do you have a job? You just kind of are you a freelance inventor, aka hobo, or are you?
A little bit of B. Used to have a job when I lived in the big city in Toronto.
Mm,
Worked at Jaguar Land Rover, so I was in the parts department, so in the automotive industry for a while.
nice.
And COVID, amongst other things, changed things. And long story short, I'm currently a landlord. Ooh,
Ooh, really?
this guy, I know. Watch out. But it was interesting how that came about. But it keeps you moving sometimes.
I
Keeps
bet.
keeps it interesting.
That's fair. So for me, I think you're aware. Like I said, I work at the movie theater in the evenings. During the daytime, I work over at a factory where I do remanufactured goods for tractor parts. Is what I work on there. So whoop whoop. I
Nice.
used to climb cell phone towers. I enjoy the shit out of that.
Whew.
Before that, I
Yeah.
was a sheriff's deputy for 10 years, and I really enjoyed that. But, divorce will table flip your entire existence, and that is what it is. One of the things that I think my audience has come to realize is there will be personal stories in regards to not only myself and my dating life, because that's a dumpster fire, just a horrible, horrible, horrible dumpster fire.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. We can share that too.
I mean, I feel like we got a lot of common ground whenever it comes to those things, but we're going to steer clear of that stuff for right now.
Sounds good.
One thing that I do want to necessarily get into is Peacemaker,
Oh,
because did you watch the last episode of Peacemaker?
I have. I am all caught
Yeah,
up currently.
I'm all caught up on Peacemaker. Now that night, the other night, whenever the last episode came out, was that the season finale? Is that what that was?
No, there's one more episode, episode 8. That'll be the season finale coming this
Okay.
week.
Okay, that's good because I know that your friend was another friend of yours that was like, you got to watch this like now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they were all like, green light, go. Now I ended up doubling down that night. I watched the Book of Boba Fett and I watched that. Now I was dog ass tired the next day, but I didn't care. I was going to do it. Okay.
Definitely.
I mean,
Which I'll just interject. I'm halfway through the last episode of Boba Fett, so I know half the finale right now.
so don't say anything about that. Okay, fair, good, good. Now here's the catch. Now, Spoilercast is a little bit different than most shows. The reason it's different is, and the reason why we had to call it Spoilercast, we could have gone with any number of things. We were trying to come up with some type of really creative, like, shtick to be able to come up with in order to be able to like catch people's attention and all of this good stuff. But we were like, Spoilercast is what it has to be. And the reason we went with that is because in order for us to talk about the events in Days of Future Past, we had to make it to where we didn't hold back on any of the plot and any of the story, right? You had to. If you held back on the plot and the story, then you kind of can't have the discussion that literally is the problem of the story itself, right?
True. Exactly.
So my standing policy is any length of time past the opening night is fair game for discussing it.
Once it's out in the world, it's out in the world.
Once it's there, it's there. Because I'm not the only nerd that lined up early to go see Endgame. I'm not the only nerd that lined up early to go see Star Wars, right?
Not me either.
There are people that are out there that are like, heck yeah, opening night, I know where I'm going to be. There were people at my job that were like, hey, did you know that the new Spider-Man movie is getting ready to come out? I'm like, I already have tickets for that. They were like, nice. I'm like, cool. And they're like, there's the whole running joke that was on Facebook for a long time. They're like, tell your boss that you have a doctor's appointment that you have to go to, and you need to go see your doctor, and your doctor you're going to see is Doctor Strange, right? I got a doctor's appointment to get to. Cough, cough, wheeze, wheeze, hack,
I
hack.
gotta go.
Spider-Man. Yeah. And then, you go and see it. For those of us who packed into those theaters early on, I realized not everybody that night could make it in. But I know specifically the movie theater I worked at, we had like 4 theaters that just played Spider-Man nonstop. And it was the big theaters that we had. All Tower Media is brought to you by Swift Lifestyles. We have a sponsor. Did you know that, Rylan?
I did not.
Yeah, so they do like energy drinks. It's this powdered energy drink thing. They've also got a bunch of other merchandise things that nature. If you go over there and use ATM Life 15, you get a 15% off for their merchandise and things of that nature. And of course, that helps us out a little bit. And as always, if you are enjoying the show and the content that we put out, whether it's through TikTok by following me or Highway Heathen, which is my friend Josh, if you like the stuff on YouTube or through Spotify or wherever it is you get your podcast, like and follow, share us around, all of that good stuff. We would absolutely love to have you guys supporting us and showing us a little bit of love there. So again, back here, Spoilercast, back in action with Rylan. I did have a thought, and I want to kind of run it past you before I further my
For sure.
point there.
What do you got?
One thing you're really good at,
Okay.
is you do send a lot of messages. And there comes that moment where you're like, I don't know if I need to stop. And every time you declare that you need to stop, you'll continue on for a little while longer. And then you go, I should stop. And then you continue on a little bit longer. And then you go, I should really, really stop. And then eventually you go, okay. And then you stop. Right. And there's no flaw in that. There's no flaw in that. I have no issues with that. There's no qualm with that. But it got me thinking it would be cool to have a segment. And you named it. You named it in one of your messages to me. You called it Rylan's Rants. And I was like, holy crap, we need to have a Rylan's Rants segment in the middle of an episode, right? Of just something you want to just run your mouth about. Like, I think it'd be fun as hell.
I'm
not putting you on the
audience.
I'm not putting you on the spot now, but just literally anything. You know what? It's really got me thinking. And then just take off until I'm like, okay, let's switch gears a little bit.
All right. I'll keep in mind. Yeah, when I get something in mind, I do tend to go. So, all right.
I think it'd be fun. Another thing that I also like to do, and it's a little bit of an exercise. I feel like you might actually enjoy this. I tried to find movies that do not belong together necessarily and bridge them into a single world with one another. I call it movie splicing. Okay. As a matter of fact, in my early TikToks, that's the only thing that I was posting up was movie splicing concepts, where you take two movies that don't belong together and you bridge them together and then explain how they work together. Okay. For example, one of my favorite ones to give, I have like two or three that are my favorites to give. You need at least two movies. It can be more, but you need at least two movies in order for this to work. Obviously, otherwise you're not splicing anything together, right? My friend Adam came up with one, which actually includes The Ring, and it works, and Harry Potter.
Interesting.
So they never really explained the little girl, Samara, in the movie The Rings. In the second movie, they still don't really explain her. You meet her mom, but you don't give a whole lot. They don't give a whole lot of detail there. She just talks about how she thinks that she was impregnated by some type of like water demon, something or other. They don't really get into it. They don't give a whole lot of detail there. Okay. Just there's this little girl who seems to have some supernatural spooky powers, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So to bridge the two movies together, we're actually going to go specifically with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which is the first location that we learned about a thing called a Horcrux. That's what it's called. A Horcrux, as we all know, is a cursed wizard object. Yeah. Nice. And you get that by fracturing and splintering your soul, and that is done by killing someone, right? Cool. So we are aware that Samara has some abilities to like put thoughts and things of that nature inside of your head. So my friend Adam postulates that what she is a witch. She's a witch, and somehow she knows and has learned about Horcruxes and is attempting to live forever. And she's attempting to drive her mother insane to the point of throwing herself off the side of a cliff in order to be able to cause said death and fracture a portion of her soul. Unfortunately, her mother ends up throwing her ass off inside a well where she's actively dying. While down there, she finally successfully manages to cause her mom to throw herself off the side of said cliff. And so she ends up dying 7 days later, and we end up with this cursed wizard object, which is a VHS tape. And so essentially you're watching a movie of like muggles dealing with a cursed wizard object, which is a fantastic concept for a movie, I think.
That is a definite different take.
Right?
Now I'm just picturing The Ring, but with that little whimsical music from Harry Potter.
Right? It changes a lot of the feel for it. Now it doesn't fit perfectly, but it's close, and it's captivating, and it's a really interesting exercise between trying to put movies together, right?
I like that.
For me, I take it a little bit differently. I go, okay, you've seen Captain America, the First Avenger.
Absolutely.
Cool. You ever seen the movie The Rocketeer?
Not a long time, but yes, I think I
Okay.
might know where you're going.
The bridge between the two of them is obviously World War II and fighting Nazis and both being superheroes, but I can solidify this a little bit. So, Captain America and the events following Steve Rogers becoming Captain America and all of that good business take place on the East Coast. All of the events of the Rocketeer take place on the West Coast of the country, both of which are happening at the exact same time during the fight of World War II. Steve Rogers goes overseas. So while we're watching the movie, The Rocketeer, it makes sense that we don't necessarily hear anything that's going on over there per se, because it's being overshadowed by a local hero and all of the events that are going on there. And it's only a span of a couple of days that that movie takes place in. Okay. So the events of Steve Rogers and everything that's going on over on the East Coast hasn't necessarily made its way over here to the other side. And by the time it does and becomes this big sensational thing, these events are already over and the movie's already over. It's why we're not hearing anything from over there. Same the other direction around, right? So they're both fighting off Nazis. They're both doing their thing. Steve Rogers just happens to take off big time, whereas the Rocketeer ends up just kind of being like this little local phenomenon. But the world goes, yeah, we've had heroes. That's a thing, because heroes becomes a thing. So it became less sensationalized in the long span of things, right? Because in our world where we haven't necessarily had supervisors, if the Rocketeer was a standalone deal, we would make that a big deal, right? There was a superhero. It was the Rocketeer. Here's his story. That would be kind of a big deal. But in a world where there are superheroes down the line, that becomes less sensational because there are bigger and better and more powerful superheroes that we end up crossing paths with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Now, here's the fun part. If you look at the early on designs of Iron Man, they have a similar tone and feel to that of the Rocketeer. Maybe that's just a design choice. Maybe there's something to that. But my argument is because the Rocketeer existed in the MCU, Iron Man growing up in future times, not during World War II time frame, in the MCU portion of things, emulates that aesthetic to a degree, up to a point. And that's part of where that comes from.
I can definitely agree with that. In fact, now that you say that, I pull in the What If episode.
See?
Kind of think of early Steve Rogers. Spoilers. Just in case. Yes, because when he didn't receive the serum, instead of Peggy Carter receiving it, what did he become? He became the first Iron Man, but in the basic old school, which was very, very reminiscent of
the Rocketeer. Exactly.
So you could see an evolution that could easily be the through line. So that I like that. Which also, I don't believe I'm mistaken. Same director for both those movies, Captain America.
That checks out. That checks out. It's
Also,
got a similar feel between them. It really does.
Exactly. So within movie and externally, both factors are working for it. It plays well, marriages well together, you know? So I like that. That's an excellent idea. I like the idea of those two actually being part of the world, seeing the early steps.
It's a fun game to play to try to bridge connections between movies, right? There's a movie.
Might I interject with one?
Yeah, go for it. You can jump in at any point in time. Don't feel like you just got to wait for me to like prompt you to talk.
Any of the Fox X-Men movies and their continuity, can they fit together? Because it doesn't seem they wanted those to fit together. So can we
sure?
Pick one?
Maybe yeah, no. Yeah. You okay? So we can actually, with Fox and the X-Men movies that they put out, right? They jumped one to the next, and they created a little bit of continuity in the early on ones, and then they became disjointed later on. But they attempted to repair a little bit of that disjointedness by doing Days of Future Past, right?
Yes.
It allowed us to do a torch handoff from other characters, and
that's exactly
right. Yeah. But then when you get on down the line to like Logan, it still fits because now you're back to, Patrick Stewart looking back on the timeline that they were there. You're just looking at that branch of the timeline. It's the same concept that we're running into with the variants and things of that nature through the MCU and the Multiverse of Madness. It's just their own version of it, and they didn't explicitly say that this is what it is that's happening. So when you're looking at Logan, you're looking at the future events from the original movies and not looking at the timeline offshoot where you end up having apocalypse and things of that nature happen.
Yes, for multiple reasons. Because I'd agree. Because the first three movies, like the main core X-Men movies, of course, all in the lineup there. The origins that first felt a little off place, but they actually do fit in, although maybe not well received. But it also set up a lot of things going forward for origins. Then you get the whole new series with First Class, which really shook the ball right away because everything lining up. Characters that were shown, like in Origins, for example, we saw Emma Frost. Then suddenly she appears in First Class. Like, okay, so the continuity is questionable. At the time, it just pretty much seems like bad narrative. Like the stories weren't connecting. Writers, I guess, weren't following the exact lines or didn't know. With multiverse variants, now that Disney has acquired the Fox properties, all those continuity problems can be addressed if they wish to go down that route.
Well, it's actually really simple to address too. It's incredibly simple to address, and it's incredibly simple to bring back characters that we weren't going to be able to see anymore. Even if people are like, that character needs to be this actor, period. It can be anyone. It can be anyone. I've recently turned you on to a TV show, which I think you've maybe started watching, or maybe you have a pin in it, and you're like, I'm going to watch this, and I need to watch this. And that's called Letterkenny, which is odd that me from the Bible Belt of Missouri got you Canadian hooked on a Canadian TV show, but whatever. Ignore that. Ignore my flannel, and we will. We will.
By the way, I was very close to wearing mine today. That would have been great. Just imagine. Go pure.
I'm also wearing my Iron Man shirt with my Daredevil skull cap, like I normally do. So I've got I'm all over the place right now.
I would have worn that, but it doesn't quite fit. I wasn't going to scar you.
I wanted the red and the red. That's what I was really looking for. It's just red, and red, Anyway, so the main character in that, his name's Wayne. Let's see if I can find what his actual actor's name is. Wayne Letterkenny. Actor is that him? That's not him. Jared Kiso.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pull this up too.
Yeah. Jared Kiso. He is a Canadian actor.
Jared Kiso. Yep. That's him.
That would be him. All right. So my recommendation is that he needs to be Wolverine. He's already Canadian. In Letterkenny, he is absolutely depicted as a scrapper constantly. He can be really calm, cool, reserved, very stoic, and yet volatile at the exact same time. Also somewhat caring and compassionate, even though he's, holds himself forward as a tough guy kind of deal. And he's relatively short. Like I could really see it, right? I could really see it. Now here's the fun. All right. Thanks to what they did in Loki and the variants and things of that nature.
Oh, great show.
Anyone can literally be these characters. You could do that as a thing. It doesn't matter. You can do guy, you can do girl, you can do black, you can do white, you can do Asian, you can do Hispanic, you can do fill in the blank, whatever. Okay.
Because why? You're a variant. You can be anything. Beautiful.
We saw alien versions of Loki, for God. We saw a crocodile version of Loki, for God's sake. So,
yes.
You could be a different friggin' species, right? You could find a Groot version of Rocket.
Yeah. Wow. I want to see this now.
So I am Rocket, right? It would be
Disney, make this happen.
That would be bananas. All right. So because of that, you could essentially bring back Ed Norton as Hulk.
That would be amazing. That would be cool.
That's why the What If episode had a animated version of Mark Ruffalo redoing all of the scenes from the Ed Norton Hulk.
Yep, which was amazing to see, by the way. I love that variation.
It's fantastic. It's awesome. But as a result of this variant thing, you can encompass literally any of the previous properties and go, they belong as a result. They all belong. They all stick now. Steven Spielberg's movie Howard the Duck could technically get shoehorned into this at this point in time, with as dumpster fiery as that movie was way back in the day. But they had duck titties in that movie.
Yeah.
Ducks don't have titties. Don't agree with that.
I'm just more going through a painful. Okay, yeah, smile and nod, power through.
Because the beginning of the movie, it literally goes into it goes past a building, and there's a girl duck that's in a bathtub, and I'm like, that's not how ducks work.
Did they not get the memo?
What is wrong with you?
Oh,
okay. All right, cool. But then you go, all right, cool. Howard the Duck is a character in the MCU. He's in there currently. He's in a post-credit scene.
Oh, it's a few times now he's made his appearance.
He's been in there at least twice.
He was there.
It's Seth Green that voices him, right? But you
Yep.
could easily point back to the other one and go, well, technically speaking,
And
that could just be another universe, another one of the offshoots, and that could be. And because of that, you can do all of the same thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, my apologies. No, I was just going to say, it's funny. In a blink and you miss it, the cameo from Iron Man 2, you see Seth Green in the elevator. So having him in the universe and also voicing, just the fun little what if could be, you know, just little moments you could just have fun, you know, just absolute any possibility is available now.
Well, let's link this back around to the X-Men as we were first talking.
Yes, because I have questions. I have thoughts.
My thoughts here, and I sent you some TikTok videos where a guy explains that he believes that the X-Men need to have, like the mutants specifically, should have and should exist within the MCU already. They've just not been paid attention to.
Yep.
Same argument that I just made for why we never paid attention to the Rocketeer versus Captain America applies exactly to that. There are other bigger things, people that are in the spotlight that we're actively paying attention to. That doesn't necessarily mean that other things aren't happening within that world, such as a mutant population.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they're making waves. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not making waves. It just means that the focus has been elsewhere.
Well, I believe when we were talking, you had mentioned the word community, and that's a big hit right there. When they actually group together, that's when there's a big notice. But the MCU for the longest time is, I believe, enhanced for a while. Other shows call them freaks. There was a whole different labels wherever you look, because that's an unknown term, unknown thing. They're just labeling things that are just sort of out there. Perfect way for them to actually be part of it, because Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are introduced. That was a big jump from what they had already done. Okay, there's the gamma radiation. Okay, science. Oh, the injection side. They try to keep it a little more level on the first few entries, although there's Thor, so I guess there goes my argument. But
not necessarily. Thor actually explains that away. Thor actually explains it. He's he goes, we're from another world. They're just a different species. Loki even addresses it. They think we're gods. Shall we test it?
It's like, we're just like them, give or take a couple thousand years, you know?
But then he's like, what you all call science, we call magic.
It's one of the same where I come from. Thank you, Thor.
They do a real good job of explaining those things. They don't necessarily detract from it, but they definitely make that discussion, and they definitely point at it. As a result of the variants, though, my thoughts are this: you could easily bring back Hugh Jackman, and you could easily bring back Halle Berry. You could bring back all of the original X-Men, okay, in some capacity, in some form or another, okay, and have them meet, let's say James McAvoy, right? Who in this case scenario, it will be Professor Xavier, right? So you find him, and when he meets those characters, he goes, I recognize who you are, even though you're not my Storm. Because in those movies, James McAvoy's character never met the Halle Berry version of Storm. She was in the movie, but she was in the future. But then when we meet their world's version of Storm, it's not the same actress.
Alexandra Shipp, if I remember correctly, yeah.
So because of that distinction, he could still technically meet Halle Berry's Storm and go, I know you, even though I've never met you, right?
Exactly.
That same parallel, you could end up having that Xavier meet literally anyone and go, I know you, you're not my version of this. And now we have an introduction of a character. So you just have to have at least one. You don't even have to be Xavier. You could have, you could bring on Hugh Jackman. You could be like, hey, can you do this role one more time? Right? We could even do Old Man Logan, right? Where he's, pull him back before the end, wherever. You could pull out any of them and have them use that as a moment of passing the torch off to someone else for the same title. Whether it's, okay, you've now met a new beast. All right, cool. Well, instead of having Wolverine, you end up meeting Laura, right? You get X-23. Okay. Because then you go, okay, Logan is like done. Like that's it. That is a wrap. That is a set son. And even if you don't get that, even if you get, let's say you get Laura from Logan, right? You grab Laura from the movie Logan after the events of Logan, now moving forward. We've already been introduced to her. Then you can wrangle in the New Mutants. You have the ability to pull in all of these characters from all of these other properties and make it cohesive because of how the MCU has fractured itself. And that is amazing. And the fact that they also doubled down on and allowed Sony to essentially pick up their pieces and go, you should run with these again. Because everybody's standing around now going, listen, we hated Andrew Garfield, but we kind of want to see him on screen again. Can he be Spider-Man again?
I'd like to interject in there. We had a brief conversation. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not a very favorite move of mine. It's one of the lower ones, but there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of great moments. There are great Spider-Man moments. That's a whole nother discussion, but I felt Andrew Garfield didn't get the greatest turn because I thought the first one was fine. A lot of people were hating on the first one. I thought, great, we're starting over again. It's very soon after Sony. And because I know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, what happened with Sam Raimi, Sony trying to kind of oust them as it is said at least, and sort of, okay, we have to shuffle to start a new universe. The MCU is growing up. So there's a lot of pressure put on Mark Webb, the director. Love that last name, so appropriate. And the actual actor had so much, like, if you've ever seen those interviews before or during, Andrew Garfield loved the character, bled the character. Like, that was his childhood, like, kind of like, I want to do, got the chance to do it. And just, unfortunately, the pressure, Sony just was, we got to compete with the MCU. And they felt too many story points and just, I mean, a whole topic we can get into. But, you know, he just didn't get enough time to shine. So when he finally came back, I'm not gonna lie, I squealed in the theaters. He's here! Oh my god! And as great as it was to see Toby, so happy. But this may have been my favorite performance because Garfield, he embodies so much of. He does a great Spider-Man and a pretty good Peter Parker. Where I thought Toby could kind of channel other parts of the Peter Parker a bit more, and just that nice little marriage of it all together. Having those pieces brought back to the MCU. The Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe is
right.
There's no words, just greatness. The fact that the first villain from one of the first comic book movies to boom the whole industry into this world that we are now in came back to be the villain again in a major blockbuster MCU central movie. What does that speak volumes to the character, the actor, the legs? So much to appreciate there.
Wonderful.
Genius move in what they just did. Genius.
Okay, and you keep saying it about oh, come on, John.
Oh, the director?
What am I trying to say? Who's puppeteering the MCU?
Oh, Kevin Feige?
Kevin. Gee, why did I get John? Kevin Feige. Thank you. I was like, John's not right. Like, John's not right. John's not right. No, that's not right. Why does that not sound right?
Jonathan. No, come on.
Oh, I was stuck in a feedback loop and I couldn't get past it. It was bullshit. But anyway, so he's doing a fantastic job at not only puppeteering where it's going and the course of action and things of that nature. I love that we're kind of getting this really good introduction to some of the villains, but before they're the villains. Does that make sense? Like Doctor Strange, his arch nemesis. Do you know any idea who the main bad is?
Strange, I'm a little weak on. I just knew most of the stuff I've seen already. Like, I've known of Dormammu. I know there's the darker side, the darker supreme sorcerer side, but I know loosely. So you have to educate me, my friend.
So Mordo.
Oh yeah.
Is one of your Baron Mordo is your I'm wanting to say he's like your primary bad guy for Doctor Strange. Like if I had to pick out one and be like, that's your bad guy, that's your guy, okay, that's who I'd point to and be like, Doctor Strange, Baron Mordo, right? You say okay. Spider-Man, who's Spider-Man's main bad guy? Any ideas? That one's hard.
Main, yeah. So many want to pull from. It's hard to say because I want to always say Goblin, but
if you ask most people, they're going to say Green Goblin. Yeah,
they're going to say Green Goblin. Mm-hmm. I mean, at younger days, I would have said Kingpin, for example, because of all the stories of him and Kingpin.
That tracks. Daredevil going to be Kingpin more than likely, or the Hand Ninjas. Okay, there's a lot of Yeah, a lot of the things that go on with the hand versus him. I don't. They're the henchman group. It would be the leadership of the henchman group. I don't remember what that guy's name is, but he's got like long black hair, wears glasses, like a red suit, got a cane, he's kind of a dick. Anyway, I'd have to find him anyway.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of villains that are out there, and you can point to some characters and spoon. This one's simple. You look at the arch nemesis for Captain America. You're going to probably look at the Red Skull, right?
Exactly.
And is that the only person he fought? No. Is it like your iconic bad guy? Yeah, pretty much. You look at Batman, the Joker. You look at Superman. Superman's a little bit harder. He's got a whole bunch of them, but like if you're gonna like really boil it down,
Luthor.
There you go. See, it's not complicated to get there. Does that mean that Zod's any less his like nemesis as well? No.
Oh.
What about Brainiac? Same answer. No, not necessarily. Brainiac is my personal favorite, by the way. So whenever you're getting into the Superman villains, and my son keeps asking me the past several times my son has seen me. He's 7. And he knows that I wear the Daredevil hat. He goes, all right, who would win in a fight between Batman and Daredevil? Batman. And he's like, why? I go, because Batman's always got a plan. Like, that's just a thing. Even if he starts to get his butt kicked, he has an exit plan to get away, and then he's going to kick your butt coming back at it again. All right. Well, what about Batman and Superman? Batman. And he's like, I'm like, no, Batman has beat Superman a lot. That's just a thing. All right. Well,
always agree with that. Batman all the way.
He's like, well, what about Batman versus like, and then he names off like Godzilla. And I go, Batman, like it's still Batman.
Yeah. What's Godzilla? Batman. Come on now.
That's the point of Batman. Like
the definition of a man with a plan.
It's just that's what it is. But in my brain, if I were to look at a bad guy that's equivalent intellectually as Batman, I'd say Brainiac. You see what I mean? You understand what I'm saying there, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to go down his roster too. Like, is anyone that can actually? That's an interesting. I've never really thought of it, but because again, I always keep the villains kind of separate in their own camps, but bleeding over. That is an interesting idea. Yeah, Brainiac is he's on a whole nother level. How many times has Superman been bested, tricked, thwarted? Like Brainiac is he's again the man with a plan. He's got thoughts. He's always involved. He's got the ever. So him and Batman to be against each other is that is an actual showdown of intellects, and
that would be a hell of a fight.
Oh, yes,
because he's just a computer program. Essentially, he's a Kryptonian. Not really a computer program. I mean, he is. He's an AI, right?
Yeah, the AI,
but at the same time, it's artificial intelligence, but that means it's kind of doing its own thing. It's its own entity, right? It's not just a computer program that you're feeding information into and getting, things out. It's different. That's why AIs freak people out. We did a whole Spoilercast over like scary movies and like the things that are like thematic of the time in regards to what they end up tapping into to like try to scare people. I'd have to go back and pull the episode. We did a really good job of breaking it down where we got talking about, during this time, these are the events that are going on in the world. And this became the social commentary. They went along with the scary movies that we were seeing at that point in time in order to be able to make those parallels. It's like, oh, I can relate to that. That's what freaks me out because you can make it somewhat real. That doesn't mean you're still not getting the jump scares and things of that nature. But, I feel like a lot of times the directors try to do that too in their storytelling to try to make those parallels. It's like, let's root this in reality somehow. But
yeah, those things come to mind. Yeah, certain eras, certain things. Here's themes, our ideas, our culture, mentality of where things might go. Let's play into that. Let's use that. And
right. And so a lot of it's fear of the unknown. People, you get spider fears and things of that nature. So they tap into not only like thematic things or cultural things that are going on in our world. Like right now, I'm surprised that we didn't get movies more in tune with like being sick and, quarantines and, viruses and stuff like that. But I think that that's just being culturally sensitive and going, that would not be a good time to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it before, though. We've
Yep.
seen movies come out before where it's been exactly that.
And then, yeah, now there's sort of a shine away. I've thought that too. There's a couple things where, it should be addressed, or I've heard a subtle name drop or something in the background, and away you go. Sort of acknowledge the times, moving on, kind of trying, I guess, again, as you said, the sensitivity, try not to address it, which is different because usually things are grabbed on, jumped upon, and
Right.
yeah.
Which I guess I give a little bit of props to, because it's like, all right, good on you for not like diving, knuckle deep into that. Don't get me wrong, it didn't stop him from doing the satire movies and things of that nature that were, parallels between the two. That's back to the beginning of this episode where we're talking about Don't Look Up. But
Mhm.
I think that they did that tactfully enough to make some distinctions there. But I remember everybody walking out of those theaters, and you either loved it and thought it was hilarious, or you were like, "That's fucked up." He's like, "Yeah, but you get it, and I'm glad you get it."
Honestly, from what I saw, no, it was great. Love the message with it going on. Had a fun approach to it. And just, hey, just watch and listen and have an opinion, but watch and enjoy and just, yeah, take it. And I knew watching this, there are going to be some divided thoughts on this. Some people are not going to like this at all. Right away, I know what you're doing and I don't agree, and that's it. Opinion made before you go any further. Like, nah, I listen. Just, hey, there's a lot of things, a lot of social commentary, and you can't really, you know, you can't really ignore it. It's part of the world and it's the reality. And hey, maybe it's done in a bit of a light, to have a little bit of a laugh on it, but it's no more. It's not less any, serious. It's not that it's being directed. It's not that it's being talked about. It's just, hey, let's have a little laugh at its
Yeah.
expense while it's being addressed. And that's reality. People just find that maybe too sensitive or if it hits too close to home. It's interesting how it can divide when it's really just trying to voice and put a spotlight on certain things. And
Yeah, I mean, when they have a rally mid-movie with a bunch of people wandering around in red hats chanting "Don't look up," and then one of the dudes from the rally drops his hat and then looks up, and he actually sees a comet coming in at the planet, and he's like, "Oh!" It's like, yeah, dude, see, you get it now. The danger's right there. Why didn't we just look up? We could literally see it. It's like, I don't know why I put that accent to that. Maybe it's where I live, but I apologize. That was insensitive. In my head, that's what an idiot sounds like, but that's because I live in the middle of Missouri and I know some idiots that actually sound that way. So whenever I start talking like an idiot in my book, I'm talking like one of my friends. So I'm not doing it to be an asshole. So if I'm ever sitting over here and I'm talking like this, it's because I'm parroting a friend of mine who's an idiot. Okay.
oh, no worries. You'll hear me sometimes go Canuck because there's a few people that truly live up to our
Sorry. I mentioned, so you have another, and this is more me kind of recapping some of the things between you and I for audience. Hoping there's audience. I'm hoping that this all takes off. I would love to just sit around and do stuff like this all day long. I would love to do video game development, and now we've brought it full circle around to that. So we're going to talk about that for just a second. I'd love to do the video game development, working on some of the stuff that we've got for that project and all of the upcoming things for it. We're hoping that it ends up taking off really well. As a result, we'll be able to start into the other 7 games that we have on the back burner at this point. So once we get the first one greenlit and hit and going and it's up and running and all of that good stuff, any of the revenue coming in for it is going to, feed those things in order for us to be able to put them out and hopefully create a bigger, better circle there. So I can sit around and do stuff like that versus having to go to work at a factory all day long. I could sit around and write side quests and story arcs and things of that nature. I could finish the books that I've been working on. I could finish, there's a lot of projects that I could end up working on as a result of that. And then in my spare time, I can sit around and nerd out and talk about movies and things of that nature. And if we make it big and successful enough, I'm going to have to move a landlord and an alien to Missouri. I think I'm going to have to find a way. I'm going to figure out what dollar amount that's going to take and be like, what do I need to throw at you people to make you give up what you have there? And from what you've told me, it sounds like little. So,
not too tethered. So,
what's the number? Come here and just root yourself into our existence and all of that good stuff. Anyway, you be the property manager for the building we're going to buy, because we're going to do brick and mortar. We're going to have a facility, and we want it to have a studio, so this way we can let people come in and do some recordings and things of that nature for music. I know plenty of people in the industry around here that want to be able to have a really nice facility for something like that. So it would be great to be able to have a brick and mortar that we do for our stuff. I had a Dire Monkey. They had Spellbook Studios, is what it was called here in town, and they exclusively made mobile games, is what they were working on. And they had podcasts that they'd run out of there, and they did a few other things. But I think they end up folding up shop. I don't know what ended up happening in the long run, but I think they end up folding up shop. But as a result of watching them do their things, we've learned a few things, and through that, I've learned that I don't want to necessarily utilize the space for our office exclusively for us. What I want to do is allocate out some of that space for other people to come in and use it. If we're going to have a recording studio for me to be able to do a podcast, for us to be able to sit down and do things like this, why the shit wouldn't we allow that to other people to be able to come in and put equipment in and generate other forms of revenue for ourselves? We can still tack All Tower Media on that because it's still All Tower Media. We encompass all of the things. Back to the video game. Good friend of mine, his name's D.A. Roberts. He's an author. He used to work with me over at the sheriff's office here in town. Came out with a series of books 10 years ago. Now, this year marks 10 years they've been out. They're called Ragnarok Rising. And some of the characters that are in them are actually written about me and the crew that I actively worked with over there. There's a character in that book named Jared Matthews who is emulated after me. Yeah, he's a character in a zombie apocalypse, and in the said zombie apocalypse there's some Nordic themes that are going on, but there's the dead are rising and all of that good stuff. He's branched off from there. He's also got a series of books called the Lakeview Man. He has a whole bunch of different titles that are out there. The Nightmare Hunter is one of the ones that he's been working on as well. He's got a bunch of different titles, but we've been cooperating with him for developing a video game. And I don't want to go into the specifics of the video game itself. We've got a bunch of trailers and things of that nature that we've put out there. Let me see. I think there might even be a button for it that I have on here. I don't necessarily see it at the moment for the trailer. What is this one? Boop. Nope, that's just a pause holding screen, so ignore that. I thought we might. Nope. Okay. Anyway, there's a bunch of different video clip buttons that we have over here. Josh would have to show me specifically which one it is, but I know that I can pull it up and run it. And it's a trailer that we have for the game that we've got coming up. It's called Watchtower 7. You're supposed to be a park ranger. It's got a heavy mystery feel to it, while at the same time you're doing a little bit of puzzle solving and some questing and things of that nature. While trying to figure out this ominous lurking threat that's out there in the wilderness. You see a lot of eye shines in the darkness, and there's clearly monsters in the woods, but we don't know what it is. And you're trying to work your way through and survive. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. And the games that the imagery that we've got put together at this point in time is outstanding. Adam has been doing a fantastic job working on it. All I've been doing is running my mouth, which, for the past hour, I've been talking, and I feel like every now and then I let you talk.
Oh, by all means.
As we warm into this more, I know you're going to have a lot of things to say.
For sure. Absolutely.
Like I said, I wanted to make sure that we had this dialogue back and forth. By the way, I don't know if you started getting it, but I'm starting to get messages from an alien, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's starting to happen right now.
Nice.
I don't know if that's populated on your end of things, but they seem to have awoken.
I'm sure I will be seeing that soon.
Arisen sounds right.
She has risen.
Yes, has risen. Anyway, so that's our good friend Danny. She's the one that actually ended up finding me initially on TikTok, and I did a sketch for her. Got you the hat, which I'm going to end up ordering myself a red version of that with an alien logo right here in the middle of it. It's going to look awesome.
Sorry, nobody heard that. Moving on.
I'm skipping that part, are we? Okay. Yeah. So,
yep.
But with Watchtower 7, we're going to have a Kickstarter coming up here in the next couple of months that we need to get underway. And we want people to be able to donate to us if they feel the need to. I would love to drum up some support on that in order to be able to facilitate Adam's job exclusively. If we hit certain goals, he can stop working and exclusively work on the game. And when he's done with it, we'll actually put the game out to the public. and then hopefully it sells really well and we do a great job at it, and there's a lot of steam behind it, and then we can start working on the next job. And that one I'm really looking forward to. Not that I'm not excited about what we're working on now, but the next one I wrote the story for, and the game mechanics and things of that nature. And we've got some ideas. It's going to be really, really, really cool. I'm really excited about the direction that it's going to end up taking. I end up writing a side story for the Ragnarok Rising books that I was just telling you about. It's nearly 3/4 of the way done at this point in time. And once I'm done with it, I'll have it published, and it ties directly into the originals. Again, my friend Doug Roberts ended up coming back around. He was like, heck yeah, anything that these guys put out that ties into my universe is canonical to what it is that I've already established, which is awesome to have a published author go, yeah, you guys can tie straight into what it is I've already done. I love that.
Yeah, that is amazing.
So what do you think about the show, Spoilercast, as a whole? Like, I know that you have, like I said, checked out a couple of the episodes. We've obviously been talking for about an hour now. We've covered a little bit of things. You've only done it once, and I didn't correct you on it. You don't have to say spoilers. At the beginning of this episode, we run an audio clip that says, if you're listening to a show called Spoilercast and you're pissed off that we gave away spoilers, we really don't care.
This is true. Enter at own risk. You enter the door. Hey, you saw the sign.
Exactly. So it's called Spoilercast. We give a name to it as far as like the specific episode. So it'll be Spoilercast. We did one that was like Day versus Night, which was Batman versus Superman.
Right.
We've done, Spoilercast, time travel movies. I don't remember the specific names on each of them, but we try to give them clever little names that kind of allude to it. And then at the beginning of the episode, we give a little disclaimer about this is what we're going to be talking about. Giving you the opportunity to go, yes, I am familiar with that. I don't care. I'm going to listen to it. Or you can go, I'm all about. The whole principle is that anybody that's gone and seen the movie up front and outright, like you, have you ever watched something and then got a hold of your buddy and wanted to talk about it, and they were like, I haven't seen it yet? You know that feeling?
Oh, okay. But okay, just when are you watching this?
Get off the phone with me right now and go watch that thing.
No, why are you wasting time with me? Get there now.
Why do you want that to happen?
Community, you want to talk, you want to share, you want to actually be able to discuss what it is. You want
theories, you want ideas. Did you see this thing? You want to talk about all of those things.
What were your thoughts on that? Did you catch this moment? What did you? Yeah.
But you can't because they haven't seen it yet. But here's some rando idiot that's on the internet that's trying to stay on top of all things media related like that, wearing a Daredevil hat, and he's talking about it like the next day. Whereas most podcasts and shows and things of that nature aren't talking about it for a while because they're like, hey, spoiler free zone. And everybody's spoiler free zone. And I get that and I respect that. I don't go to the movie theater and stand at the concierge desk up front going, hey, I run a show called Spoilercast. I don't care if you've seen this or not. I'm going to tell you about it. I don't do that, right? If you want to talk about it, we will talk about it. If you've seen it and I've seen it, we will talk about it. But you haven't seen the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Did I bring it up at all?
I mean, we can discuss it. I've seen a good chunk of it, but
I didn't bring it up at all because I don't want to tap dance on that line. We avoided it in its entirety, even though it's been out. But now Rylan knows, right? Now Rylan knows, and I try to come up with, like I said, in advance what the episodes are going to be about and all of that good stuff. So there's not a whole lot of risk there. And so when you walk in the door and you, like you said, you saw the sign, said Spoilercast, and you get in here, you hear what we're talking about. And like I said, I gave kind of a blanket statement at the beginning. We're not really talking about anything specific, right? But as each of the themes came up, we kind of addressed it slowly. It's not like we covered anything that.
No, we just kind of go into whatever kind of feels right. And yeah, you're right. It's typical mentality of, okay, spoilers, I'll just, again, talking with the friends. But yeah, once you're in here, take that worry off. It's just free zone to talk. And
exactly.
That's it, Once it's out, it's out.
And that's the goal, is to be able to sit down and talk about all these things in their entirety and not have to hold back on any of them, theorize, come up with all sorts of, things of that nature. I said that we were going to bring up Peacekeeper early on, and I completely dropped the ball and we went a totally different direction. One thing you will find, much like the messages that you send over to me, 100% of Spoilercast also is completely disjointed, and we go all over the place. We follow tangents, we follow rabbit trails, we follow breadcrumbs that take us off into the dark, dark woods. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Okay.
The passion of the conversation, it goes where it goes.
Exactly. When we hone in on a specific thing, though, we tend to stay a little bit more on rails. The episode that I actually ended up sending over to you, I let a friend of mine, Jareth, run the episode on that one. He took the reins and he ran with it. We stayed on target, and I sat back. I remember listening to it after the fact. Actually, the day I sent it to you, I listened to the whole thing. I'm like, why am I not the one that's doing this? I had totally forgot that I let him run that show. But if you listen to the other ones, we'll go off on a tangent. We'll be 6-7 miles down the road going, how the hell did we get here? And, oh, right, we need to go back to where we were. And I want to do a better job at that when we're trying to remain on a topic. So if I get a hold of you and I'm like, hey, this next week when we have an episode, you want to talk about this thing? That's what we'll talk about. We won't necessarily go diving off the deep end on each of the hang up points there. I want to make sure that we go through and cover that source material. But this one never was meant to be that. This is just kind of warming back into it.
Exactly. Nice flow. Yeah. I pretty much would have a little pad, just kind of bullet points of ideas. And then as we flow, just, all right, narratively get back to whatever we're discussing, but kind of just let it go. Cause whatever pops in the mind in the moment, just kind of go with that passion. It sparks all the rest of the conversation. So it's,
heck yeah.
As you're well aware from those messages, I tend to go down any type of avenue. And all right, where was I?
I still like the concept of doing a Rylan rants. I think that would be a lot of fun. And you won't have to do it all the time. As you feel, if you're going through the course of your day and you're like, I have a thing I want to talk about.
Well, I can go off right now because Days of Futures Past, to bring it back to that, just a few thoughts, random stuff. That movie had a lot of random places for me because I remember day one of its shooting happening in Montreal. First day they're going to go actually do the whole thing is when the bombing unfortunately happened. The Boston. So it's very much stapled in my mind because it stopped the production from what I believe I heard. So I'm like, okay, Days of Futures Past had a real world association there that had an effect on the actors on the actual event. Leading forward with that, there was the complications with the director. There's complications with actually getting everyone to snap. I remember hearing about the Halle Berry rumors. They're trying to keep everything under the umbrella. So all the real world stuff was fascinating to me to find out about this movie. Then it's going to be based on this amazing, one of my favorites of all time for X-Men. It's just, and of course, mentioning the cartoon, just enough said. Beautiful, right. Beautiful. Even though it's a very shortened version, very different side to take, it's still it's great. At the core of it's there. So the movie comes out, it's fine. I don't mind what they were trying to present as the movie. Okay, they're taking a very artistic take on it, had many gripes with it. We'll definitely get into that, I know, at a point. But just the idea of them actually trying to merge two different worlds together, bring the actual storyline together, create a clean state for all these characters to go forward, despite whatever happened. Hey, alien, whatever happened. It was an amalgamation of all the creative work that happened between the whole creative staff of the original, the reboot, Matthew Vaughn's first interpretation with First Class, Bryan Singer's return, a nice little marriage. I don't want to go further because after Days of Futures Past, it drops. But between real world events that locked it and the personalization I had, the connection to that story, there's a lot I like about that movie. That is more drawing from the real. When we go into the actual characters, events, reasoning, narrative, since you told me that, I can't wait to rewatch that. And it's like, why? Why is this still happening? But yes, there's a lot of things that were studio mandated too. Remember, we mentioned the whole eyes at the end, that doesn't connect to anything what would be narratively going forward. You've actually just done a reference to the original movie, tying that world together. While doing that, shooting your actual narrative, where it goes from here. And that was a big complaint. Many people did not like that. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to go too much into it before we actually go into an actual topic of it. Just sort of bullet points. There's just the real world that inspires me. I love the facts of it. Okay, for example, Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman was excellent in that movie. Actually, He doesn't do a bad job. But even the continuity from characters to Xavier to him, simple little lip service, which it can be. I used to wave off. That's just he didn't remember right. We're talking Charles Xavier here. He doesn't get these little bumps. So the character hiccups, inconsistencies there were also issues. Oh, you're trying to make him more flawed, but by doing so, you're showing errors in his actual character. And then going forward, as you point, like, what is this character? This character is not the same. He's not, which would have been great to be portraying him as the not so glowing one, but they're trying to have that whilst screwing up the character. It doesn't mesh right. And that's just the problems going forward amongst many things in those following two movies. But that's all on its own.
So we can, like I said, we can come up with a bunch of different things. I know one specific movie that I've been really wanting to do a spoiler cast about is called The Last Duel.
Okay.
I would very much like to do that. I have two friends that also want to join in on the conversation. I don't know when that might be, but I very much want to have people watch that. It's not a time. It was out for a while, and it's good. It's real good, but it's not a movie that I think like everybody took the time to really go see, and it's really, really good. It's got Adam Driver, Matt Damon, and I don't remember what her name is.
Yes. Is that? I'll just make sure here.
It's based off of historical events of the last recorded duel in history.
If I'm not mistaken, Ridley Scott. Yes. Okay. Sorry, I need to confirm it was the right one. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. But I really want to have that discussion about that movie because there's some stuff that occurs in it that it's fantastic storytelling. I love it so much. It's wonderful. Perhaps you haven't seen it all.
So that's on the list now.
Perhaps we should do some like less known kind of obscure titles that we can recommend to each other. Like I make one that direction, you make one the other, and then we can like watch it and then have full on discussions about it from some fresh material.
I like that.
It might not necessarily strike real well with everybody out there because I think everybody's like, oh, well, what's everybody think about the new Spider-Man movie? Everybody's talking about the new Spider-Man movie. Not everybody's talking about the movie Last Duel.
Yes, I like that.
Then again, you're going to hit that niche market that's out there, and I'm hoping that becomes, beneficial and gets a little bit of people going, yeah, it's got some interesting points. I like hearing that.
Personally speaking, I always enjoy when I hear an obscure reference to something. I usually, as you said, like The Last Duel, you mentioned to me, I never got a chance to actually, watch it. Now it's on the list. When I listen to other podcasts or YouTube, whatever I'm watching, hearing, anything that I'm not too familiar with sparks the interest. Okay, tell me more. And if they don't go into it myself. So yeah, just a conversation here can generate the interest, and doesn't always have to be about the biggest blockbuster or what's going on. Even if it's a nice spicy topic, if everyone's talking about it, maybe another topic can be refreshing. So I think that's an excellent idea.
Let's see here. I need to. My note. I don't know if you can hear that or not. My notification settings. Turn off all notification settings for. There we go. Okay. I don't know if that's coming through on that end, but it was annoying me.
No, you're good over here.
There's a group chat that I'm a part of that I'm over here going, stop. I haven't even talked to that particular group in like months now, but anyway, there's a handful of movies that kind of slipped through the cracks that I was like, holy shit, I'm in love with this thing. And I try to share it out with everybody, anybody and everybody. There's two specifically. Last Duel is one of them, and the other one is Jojo Rabbit.
I haven't seen it. It's on my list again to watch. So fire is lit. I really, really want to watch that. Only great things I've heard. I know Taika's in it, and that alone told me like, okay.
He's in it. ScarJo's in it.
ScarJo.
Sam Rockwell.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, okay. I cried. I cried like a baby, at least twice during that movie. And I showed it to a friend of mine. I was like, "Yeah, sit down and watch this movie." He's like, "What is this about?" I'm like, "It's about a kid growing up in Nazi Germany as a Nazi youth in that time frame, and like some stuff." And I'm not going to get into it. Let's just watch the movie. And then we sat down and watched. And he was like, "This movie's so good." Midway through the movie, he's like, "I'm crying," and then towards the end of the movie, he's like, "I'm crying again." I'm like, Yeah, he'll punch you in the feels like that, man. It's strong. It's so good. So like I said, I think we should do that. We'll come up with that. We'll come up with a good schedule for this. I'll get an actual legitimized list put up for where and when people can find us for this stuff. And then we should definitely take out some like audio clips from this episode and post them up on like TikTok videos. Cause I think hearing me say duck titties is probably worthwhile.
I think that alone is the way. Duck titties for the win. Come on. What was George Lucas thinking?
Just have people post. Oh, that was Steven Spielberg.
Sorry. Yes, I meant. Here I go, already making the association. Sorry, George.
Because I can't help but think that like somebody would be like, "What are these people talking about?" Like, and then they come over to like check it out, whatever. I think it'd be kind of cool to take segments out of each of our episodes.
Just get the little hook.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. And for my part, I'll definitely be. I apologize for being a little too more reserved here. I'm just first time here. I'm actually just enjoing listening to you, my friend. It's
and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to ease everything forward. I wanted to go, here's us. This is what we're doing. This is Rylan. This is Roper. We're going to be doing all these movie discussions, things of that nature. We don't want. We were going to do it as a live. We're going to have chat feed and things of that nature. But there's a risk to that. I both don't give a shit about spoilers and do at the same time. I don't want somebody to show up in the show and go, "What are you guys talking about?" And then go, "Whoops, didn't want to be here for that," and then bow out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
By allowing us to do a recording and then again a post upload gives a second layer of defense. Now you've seen the name. Now you've seen it's like it's posted up after the fact. It's not like you slid into a live that you weren't expecting. It's why I'm not even going live on here during this, because normally I would be going live during State of the Nerd, where I'm looking at this camera, looking at that camera, and talking to both locations at the same time. I didn't want to do that because I don't want to ruin things for people. I want people to be able to talk about these things and nerd out about things. And while I personally don't give a shit about spoilers, you can tell me everything about a show or a movie, and I do not care, because in my mind, I still am going to appreciate that for myself in that moment. Whether you told me or not, I'm still going to experience that differently. I'm still going to look for how that happened, right?
Yeah. You know what? Anyone can tell me a spoiler, and I could go, "Oh, kind of wish I didn't know that possibly," but you know what I do is instantly it's blanked. The second I am in the theater in front of whatever I'm watching, my mind goes right into observe what this is. Even if I know a spoiler, it's blanked out of my mind because I'm only in the moment. So if I even know that something's coming, it's not ruined for me. I'm just, okay, how does this unfold? How is this going to be shown? Like, it's curiosity. Roll out the carpet. Let's see how it's done. So yeah, spoilers for me, it's not an issue. I just worry about, I just don't want to have that on me where, oh, I didn't mean to take something away from someone. That would be my concern too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, talk away. That's it. It's just get into the meat and bones of it, because that's where the conversation lies.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, boys and girls, we're about an hour plus into this at this point in time. I'm going to wrap it up as of right now in order for us to get on with our days. And like I said, we aim at about what knuckles was that? Anyway, something fell inside my house. I need to go figure that out. So it's a good time for us to end it. I hope everybody has a good evening. Have a good night. Bye.
Good day. Take care.